Hi there and welcome to Belfast High School History Department on YouTube. This little video is about life for African Americans in the 1920s United States, and it's going to focus on the experiences in the southern states. So the 1920s, as you might know, was a time that's called the Roaring Twenties, a time of unprecedented wealth and freedom. An economic boom was taking place which produced a huge amount of wealth for many Americans. However, for African Americans, they still had racial intolerance, discrimination and even cold-blooded murder. And we're going to concentrate on this. So slavery had been abolished way back after the American Civil War in 1865, yet the American political system allowed for states to make their own laws, and this maintained discrimination. Up to 12 million black Americans lived in the southern states. 75% of the population of the southern states were African American at this stage, and they lived in an area called the Deep South. Okay, so the vast majority lived down in this area. This area was known for its discriminatory laws, and these laws affected many African Americans, and they're known as Jim Crow laws. So Jim Crow laws, they're nicknamed after a black and white minstrel show. Jim Crow laws were highly discriminatory, and they relegated many African Americans to second-class citizens. It all stemmed in 1896, a very shameful Supreme Court ruling, which was called the Plessy versus Ferguson case, and it ruled that segregation was constitutional. It was allowed, it was okay, as long as black people could be treated separately but equal, and this equality did not happen at all. It allowed for basically segregation to take place across the southern United States. Segregated water fountains, swimming pools, libraries, churches, designated carriages or on trains or sections of buses for African Americans, segregated education with poorly funded black schools, and you also had anti-miscegenation laws forbidding relationships between blacks and whites, and juries were off limits to black people. This meant justice was obviously almost impossible due to white juries. Voting also was discriminated. You had the grandfather clause, which forbade people who had slaves in their ancestry from voting. The aim of this was obviously to keep representation of black people to a minimum. So you can tell how discriminatory this is. African Americans would also encounter economic hardship and discrimination on top of these Jim Crow laws. So due to discrimination and lack of funded education, many of them were unemployed or in the lowest paid unskilled jobs. You also had a system called sharecropping as well, which made life particularly difficult. So sharecropping, what it is it's the same owners who would actually promise to give a share of the profit once a crop is sold. In the meantime, though, they would provide a loan, and obviously this here keeps the people on the land and owing something to the landowners at the time, and makes it very difficult to make any living. You also had this deeply racist terrorist group, almost called the Ku Klux Klan, that existed in the southern states, in fact across the whole United States. It's a white supremacist organisation. It has up to 5 million members at its height, and it terrorised black communities through its actions. So what would it do? Well, up to 400 African Americans were lynched during the 1920s alone. This was being hanged without trial, no intervention as well too. It was termed the rope law as well at the time. There was acts of intimidation, burning crosses, tarring and feathering people to create a sense of terror across the southern United States. There was little or no justice, as the authorities, the police, the judges, and even some juries were often highly connected to the KKK or intimidated by them as well too. So justice was very difficult to get. Hopefully this makes sense. This is going to follow on a couple of other videos as well too. If you want to watch those, they'll give you a full insight into the experience of African Americans. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you.